Give it a second. It takes 30 seconds to buffer. You're live on the internet.
Okay, cool. Can we sniff? Can we quiet that?
Huh?
Can we quiet that a bit?
Yeah, Jake, either get out or turn off the sound. I don't care which one.
Okay.
Awesome. How's everyone doing today?
Good.
Good. Nice. Today we're going to be going over Cisco. Unfortunately, the professor that's going to be teaching us Cisco, he has finals this week and wasn't able to give us some time, but I will go over, so we don't get further delayed, I will go over some Cisco stuff and he will continue. All right, next slide. Next slide. Next slide. Next slide. Next slide. Next slide. Let me step in here. Okay, I guess we can dive with this. Networking. Networking supports the way we play video games. So if you guys are any online gamers, you guys use the network. We use it for work. We're constantly uploading videos to YouTube or surfing the web for email, or I'm sorry, sending emails, surfing the web for work. The way we communicate is over a network. Again, emails, video chats, that's all over a network. And the way we learn is over a network. Today, in today's class, you guys all have computers in your classrooms. Obviously, in this classroom, you guys have computers. And I'm sure you guys browse the web during class or go to YouTube or whatever. Next slide, please. Yeah, so networks are of many different sizes. You have your home network, your small office network, your medium to large networks, and your worldwide networks. I would classify us here as a medium to large network here at Shadow Mountain / Christian Unified Schools. Next slide. Cool. So what consists of a network? You have your client, which are your end users, and you have your servers. As you see here in this particular setup, you have 4 clients, and you have 1 server. It's a mail server. This is a network. On a smaller network like that, of just clients, would be called peer-to-peer. But again, this is just a smaller network because you do have a server. Right here, you have a little bit of a more complex network. So you have a switch to be able to talk to multiple devices. You have, let's see, you have 3 clients and 3 servers. You have a file server, a web server, and an email server. Next slide, please. Peer-to-peer. Awesome. So peer-to-peer is literally just a small network. I think of up to 10 endpoints or end clients is considered a peer-to-peer network. It's easy to set up. It's less complex. It costs basically nothing. You don't have to buy any switches, routers, you do have to buy a router to get out to the network, but you don't have to buy multiple switches. So it's a lot more cost effective than it is buying an actual network. So you'll see a lot of small businesses have a peer-to-peer network. Most smaller private schools have a peer-to-peer network. It's just very cost effective. The disadvantages though is it's not scalable, so you can't really expand your network. It's not secure because you don't have a physical firewall device, and there's no central administration. Next slide. Next slide. Cool. So there are different types, or there's 3 different components to a network. You have your devices, your media, and your services. So your devices would be like your computers, your clients, your end devices. Your media consists of all your cabling, so your fiber cables, your Ethernet cables, and your services of your different servers. Next slide. Yeah, so some examples of end devices. You have workstations, laptops, file servers, web servers. You have network printers, voice over IP telephones. Those are all end devices. They're not giving something out. They're receiving. Security cameras, handheld devices, mobile devices, etc. Next slide. Yeah, and then you have your network infrastructure devices, so your switches, your wireless access points, your routers, and your firewall, your security devices. Next slide. Cool. So this is your network devices we talked about. You have your fiber. So when you're connecting building to building, you're not using copper because copper can only go, I believe, 300 feet. So you're using fiber, which can go, very long distances. This is where you can connect multiple buildings together. So for example, a great example would be from the generations to the main tincture. We have fiber lines underneath the ground, which are using to connect to the network. You have your copper, which is used for short distances. I believe under 300 feet. So right here, if you pick up an Ethernet cable, or if you look at one, it's all copper cabling on the inside. And then you have your wireless stuff. Next slide. Cool. So end devices. When you're dealing with Cisco, these are the different figures you will see that represent stuff. So for example, your end devices. You have your computer. That's what your desktop would look like. Your laptop, that's what it's going to look like in packet tracer, so when you're actually configuring the network. You have your intermediate devices, so your wireless routers, your LAN switches, your routers, your multi-layer, which is also multi-layer switch, which is also known as a layer 3 switch, which we'll get into later. Layer 3. So layer, and you also have your firewall appliances, and then you have your different types of media, like we talked about. So this is a WAN connection, which we'll talk about later, I believe, in this presentation. This is your LAN media, so like all your Ethernet cables, and this is your wireless signal, so your frequency waves, essentially. Next slide. Okay, so in a network, you have you have two different topologies. You have a physical topology and a logical topology. Every network, or every big company has one. Your physical topology is basically like a map. It's a map, a layout of your buildings. And you place exactly where everything is on that topology. So if we had one Christian Unified, if we just pretend we have a map here of Christian Unified, you would see in each room the exact computers in the room and the cables running. That's a physical topology. You'll see where it's connected to. You'll see what switches connected to. So that's, it gives you an actual place of where the device is at. A logical topology is just a fast piece of paper that just shows everything you have in your network. It doesn't give you location, it just shows you what's there. Next slide, please. Cool. So there are a couple different types of networks. There's a LAN network, which is what you guys are familiar with. So that's kind of like here, this is a LAN. You have your WAN, which are bigger networks. So if you guys have heard of WAN connections. You have your MAN network, which is a metropolitan network. Basically, so that's what this city uses. It's the city's network. Then you have your wireless LAN, which is just your, all your wireless stuff, so your SSIDs you connect to. And you have your SAN, so it's just storage area network. Next slide. Cool, so this is a local area network. As you can see, it's a small network, but it's a little bit more complex than a peer-to-peer network. You have a switch involved, so you have a little bit more devices. And it looks like you also have a server here. And here are your end devices or your clients. Next slide. This is a WAN. So a WAN is when you have two routers and you're connecting two different buildings or two different routers together in different locations. So you have a LAN right here, and then you have your WAN connection to be able to connect these two buildings to another LAN. So that is a WAN. Next slide, please. And then, let's start off with this. What is the internet?
It looks like a bunch of LANs and WANs.
There you go. It's just a bunch of LANs connected by a WAN. It's just a bunch of servers connected by, and a bunch of LANs connected over a WAN connection. That's all the internet is. Next slide. Cool. So you guys have seen these, your intranets and your extranets. Now we're going to talk about this. So your intranet is your actual network, so you're inside of your company. Your extranet is all your basically like your ISP, and then your internet is everything else. So like when you go to google.com, that is your internet. When you're connecting to a server, let's say we had a file server here. When you connect to that, you're connecting via your intranet, so inside your network. Next slide. Cool. So there's different types of connections. You can get internet to your location. You have DSL, cable, cellular, satellite, and dial-up. If I remember correctly, this is in correct order of speed. So DSL, I want to say, is the fastest, while dial-up telephone is the slowest. If you have dial-up at your house, you're going to have a very slow connection. But if you live in the middle of nowhere, like the desert or somewhere, and there are no cables out there, you're going to run over satellite, which is not very fast and not fun to be on. Next slide.
I've played World of Warcraft over dial-up before.
That sucks. I'm sorry.
Painful. I literally cried.
I'm sorry. Cool. So again, and then there's different types of connections for companies. It all depends on how much money you want to pay. The more money you're willing to pay, the better service you're going to get, just like it is with everything. So dedicated lease lines are very, very expensive. You're looking at like in the upwards of thousands of dollars a month.
Worth it for smooth.
It depends what your company is, and you know, in some cases it is worth it. So I'll give you a great example. The Rock Church, they have multiple different locations, and for them, it was cost effective and made more sense to if they had dedicated lines to all of their campuses connected for them to be able to live stream their services real time at all their locations. Here at Shadow Mountain, we use the satellites.
We use satellite?
Mhm.
I thought you said it wasn't that fast.
That's if you're getting internet to here. That's if you're getting internet here. Here, what we use to transfer our video stuff is there is a delay, and but it does work. Is we use our satellites to get to our multiple locations here.
Wait, we have satellites.
We rent satellite time. Yes, we do. We don't own the satellite, but we rent satellite time.
It's got like
It's got Pastor Jeremiah's face on it.
God.
And actually, it's been pretty useful. Not gonna lie.
God, in the satellite God. God, give me power.
So, a great example of us using the satellite was I don't know if you guys remember, but we had the cop memorial service here, the police thing. So we actually streamed that to the satellite, and like all the local news stations just connected to our satellite and got our feed. So we didn't actually have to give them a physical cable to get our feed.
Did they pay us?
No, we didn't charge. We could charge, but we didn't.
It could have been time.
There you go. Next slide.
Time.
Next slide.
Why is the tide so high?
Um,
Gotta get that gaming.
don't want to talk about this right now. No, next slide. Next. Cool. So supporting a network. Whenever you want a good network consists of these four things. It's fault tolerance, so it's redundant. In other words, you always have a backup of something that's important. So for example, an Active Directory server. That is something that has all your credentials, your domain controller. I'm sorry, your domain controller is something that has all your users stored. You always want to make sure you have a backup domain controller because that is one of the four parts of having a fault-tolerant network. Next, scalability. You want to make sure that your network is able to expand with your company growing. So if that means not buying the cheapest switches to save money, then you're not going to buy the cheapest switches because, you know, if eventually when you get big and those switches can't support what you're doing, you're going to have to rebuy everything. You're essentially spending twice the money. So that is involved with scalability. Quality of service, so you want to make sure that, you know, you have, for example, you have different VLANs, which we'll go over VLANs, and you have all your voice VLANs on a specific VLAN that's running quality of service. So what that means is it will have priority on the network over anything else. That's running, for example, let's say you are watching YouTube video on this machine, and then you pick up your phone, or you answer the phone on your voice over IP telephone. With QoS, that telephone will have priority over your video because it's something that if the packets drop, the phone call is going to drop. Where in your video, if you drop a packet here and there, it's not going to matter. It might buffer a little, but you're not going to lose the stream. So QoS is basically just giving something the importance of over everything else. Next slide. Or I'm sorry, we never talked about security. Go back. Security. So this is what we're here for. CyberPatriot. So we want to make sure we have a secure network. What that means is we want to make sure we have physical security appliances for firewall, or maybe a software firewall, or something that's going to keep our network protected. Remember how Paul went over ports? We want to make sure that our ports are closed, the ones that we don't want open, etc. Next slide. Fault-tolerant network. So just like we talked about, you can see they have backups. Let's see here, your telephone network. So see how they have multiple telephone switches. So if one dies, it jumps to the next switch, and it's still on that, or the phones are still on that network. So it'll just always work no matter if it dies. Next slide. Packet switch network. Okay. So a packet. So whenever you go to a website, what you're actually doing is sending a bunch of little packets of information. And we'll learn about packet encapsulation. We'll learn what's in the packets. So, for example, this is just super brief. In one packet, you'll have the source address, the destination address, and the sequence number. So each packet has a sequence number, so when it gets there, it organizes it all. But essentially, when you're doing something across your LAN or anything over the network, it's all being transmitted in packets. So think about it like this. Think of a little envelope, just like it shows right there, and it's like sending it over mail. The encapsulation is like a postage stamp. It tells it where it's going, essentially. Next slide. Scalability. Again, just like we talked about, they're able to expand their network. Next slide. Providing quality of service. Again, just like we talked about, so for time-sensitive communication, for telephone or video disruption, basically it's just so one service has the ability to, has priority over another type of service in your network that's more important. So like I said, a phone service, when you're making a phone call over voice over IP, you want to make sure that phone call is not dropping packets, because you're going to start missing words of what the other person's saying if you're dropping packets. Next slide. Secure network. Again, so we want to make sure we have a firewall so we keep our competitors out. If you're okay, since we're here at a church, let's say another church wants to hack into our church to see how much money we're getting in tithes.
I don't think Jesus would approve.
That's a whole nother thing to talk about. Like, yes, exactly. But let's just say another church wants to hack into our church to see what our tithes are, how many members we have. That's why we have a secure network. We have a firewall in place that will prevent that from happening. And that's the whole. And those are the 4 points of having an ideal network in the IT world. Next slide. Okay, so in today's world, next slide. There's something new that came out. It's called BYOD. Bring your own device. It depends where you're seeing it for. Obviously, if you're at a government facility that has top secret, information, and you need to see. Exactly, Hillary Clinton. Thank you. You're not going to bring.
Never said Hillary Clinton.
Stay focused, guys.
You're not going to be able to bring your own device in a government facility. Why? Okay. So, great example. Let's say you work for the Department of Defense. Let's say you work for the Department of Defense. All right, guys.
Dude, have you seen that? She's killing people.
I know. Okay, back on topic, guys.
No, it's just accident.
Okay, people, shut up.
Let's say you work for the Department of Defense. And let's say they were on the BYOD policy. And you brought your own computer to work that day. And let's say you had a virus on there. Oh no. What's going to happen when you connect to their network? The virus is going to spread, and the Department of Defense is going to be infected, and Hillary is going to blame someone else.
Yeah, it's the Russians.
So the Russians will hack. The Russians did it. So that is why they don't use it in the government sector. But in today's world, for a great example here at Shadow Mountain, you can bring your phone and connect to the network, can't you? You can bring your laptop and connect to the network. That is the new model called BYOD. Next slide, Paul. Next slide. Next slide. I mean, I don't go back. I mean, I really don't think I need to talk about video communication, you guys. I mean, do you guys care how many video users there are in the world? 2.8 billion world internet users. You guys care about that?
No.
Not
Okay,
entirely.
next slide.
Internet is being used by people.
Okay. Okay, we'll talk a little bit about cloud computing. Next slide.
Also kind of terrifying. Bunch of people.
I'm gonna talk about this. Hold on.
Data centers were still using tape as a storage option.
Computer
Seriously?
associated.
Well, it's great.
Next slide.
Well, no, it's like the tape, like VHS.
Okay, we can talk about this.
Oh, they're kind of like
Smart homes.
paper.
A lot in today's world, you're seeing a lot of smart homes. So you can control your thermostat. You can unlock your car or your house from your phone. You turn on your lights. You can do a lot of cool things nowadays with your smart home enabling. But since we're in cybersecurity, is that pretty secure?
No.
I mean, what happens? What happens if you lose your phone and you didn't have a password on your phone, and now someone else has your phone?
I would set your thermostat to 10 degrees.
Exactly. So it's not a very secure thing.
Something crazy like
Next slide.
Randomly.
that would never happen, right?
Cool. Okay, the next thing, power line networking. Power line networking is great, and it's terrible. I've used it before. So basically, if you don't have the money or you don't have the time or patience to run a cable within your walls, you can use power line networking. Essentially, it's two boxes. You have a transmitter and receiver, and it does it all over your power cable. So you plug it in on the same circuit, and then you plug the other one on the same circuit, the receiver, and then you basically essentially have like an Ethernet cable within your power lines.
Wireless.
That sounds. No, it
It-
crashes a lot though. Like I have.
But
it
there are,
crashes so
yeah.
often.
Would it something that like strengthens your Wi-Fi like connection like there's a little thing you plug in the wall.
Wi-Fi
that, like,
computer.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Would that be like a source of it? Like,
No, because I'm pretty sure most Wi-Fi repeaters, you're probably either piggybacking off the Wi-Fi that's already out there, and all it's doing is grabbing it and expanding it.
okay.
Or is that mine? No. Or what they're doing is you have a Ethernet cable plugged in, and it's just broadcasting from the Ethernet cable. So what this is doing is this is going over your power lines, over your copper, and essentially using it as like an Ethernet cable. And then on the other side, when you plug it into the wall from that brick, there's an Ethernet cable that comes out of it, and you can plug that into your machine. So basically, if you don't have a wireless NIC in your car, in your computer, you can use this. It is useful, I'm not going to lie, and they are pretty cheap. So like a top of the line one of these is like $99, where the lower end runs for like $59.99. Mm-hmm.
But doesn't it crash a lot?
Yeah, it is a little bit unreliable, and it is a lot slower. I think you can only get up to 100 megabytes at a time, or 100 speed-wise. So, I mean, today's world we're looking at gigabit speeds, so this is like super slow compared to other types of devices.
Wait,
Next slide. Gigabit. We'll talk about that.
That's just like I know what it is.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like it's not 8 million anymore. It's like 1 million, right?
Gigabits instead of gigabytes. But I think it's...
We'll talk a little bit more about that later. Next slide. No. Oh well, I never saw the next. Yeah. Wireless broadband service, where we talked about that, super slow and it sucks. Next one. Threats to a network. All right. So exactly, you have your firewall. Firewalls come in many different types of products. There are software firewalls. There's a firewall built into your computer. For example, Windows, you do wf.msc, your command run wf.msc, and you can come up to your firewall configuration. So that's great. Most end devices have built-in firewalls, but you also want to have a firewall for your entire network. So where the internet, where the outside, the extranet, where the outside of the internet is coming into your intranet. You can have, there are physical devices that are just like little boxes that act as firewalls. Or like I said, you can have software. I'm pretty sure you can buy like a machine that just runs software and have that as your firewall. So there's just many different ways of doing it. Next slide. Security threats. Why do people want to attack? Identity theft. Denial of service, just like we talked about before. All these we've already talked about in the Windows training. So next slide. Security solutions. So antivirus. Boy, I do not like talking about antivirus because I have a love-hate relationship with them. I personally, this is just for me, I do not have antivirus on any of my machines. It does slow your machine down, big time. But it does prevent you from...
Antivirus slows it down?
Yes, antivirus slows your machine down because think about it, it's checking like every single file on your machine. And every incoming file is checking as well. I don't have it because I'm just careful of the websites I go to and the attachments I open in emails. But I just don't use antivirus. But it is great. It helps you find malware, ransomware. Malwarebytes is the best antivirus for Windows machines. And the next after that would be, it's called SpyBot. SpyBot Search and Destroy. It's their motto, search and destroy, whatever. And then for Apple, I believe McAfee is pretty good. MacKeeper, McAfee, whatever it's called. There's many different ones for Apple, but like I said, I just personally don't use them. Next slide. Next slide. Okay, so this is how the structure of Cisco works. At the very bottom, you have your entry level. So talking about this is about certifications. You have your entry level certification, which is called your CCENT, Cisco Certified Network Technician. Right after that, you have your CCNA, which is your Cisco Certified Network Associate. You have your CCNP, your Cisco Certified Network Professional. Then you have your CCIE, Cisco Certified Internet Expert. And then you have your CCIA, your Cisco Certified Internet Architect, which are crazy genius people who, yeah, it's basically impossible to get your CCIA or CC, yeah. Very few. Next slide.
There's like what, 7 of them?
I don't know, man. Okay, so we learned about why we use networks and how it's helpful. We learned that networks comes in all sizes and, you know, different configurations. We learned about, you know, different types of network you get from your ISP. We learned about intermediate devices, your media devices, and your end devices. Do you guys have any questions? I know we went over a lot and we went over it pretty fast. You guys have any questions, comments?
Nope, makes sense.
You guys got it?
Seems fairly straightforward.
Yes.
Yeah.
Cool.
Seems straightforward.
Well, I want to hear.
Let's do it.
Did you guys hear? I want to hear. What'd you guys learn? What is something that you'd never heard of before until
WAN.
Power line.
WAN?
The power line thing I didn't
Power
know.
line?
The determined internet for like all the big corporations.
Okay, so your MAN, your WAN, your LAN, all those.
The one with
Your SAN.
Metropolitan.
Yep, the metropolitan area.
I live near, like, I have like the tribe that I live by. Uses, I think, it actually uses 4 WANs, and then it connects to a bunch of different LANs. I think.
So they have one MAN.
I think so.
A WAN is essentially just inside like your corporation's connection.
Oh, well, so imagine like 3 sections, and all those are connected to one. So
Oh,
Sounds like it.
well, it's tricky.
it's pretty bad, yeah.
Okay. What else did you guys learn?
What was it called? The internet for like a small city. What that was called?
The MAN?
What?
MAN? Metropolitan Area Network?
Yes. I didn't know that was a thing.
Yep.
I didn't know about SAN.
SAN?
I knew about
Storage
SAN.
Area Network?
Can
Yeah,
you explain
so
that better though? Like.
which one? The SAN? So basically it's
Is it
so we
essentially
have a
Ethernet?
SAN here.
Is it essentially just Ethernet running to like?
It's just a storage device. It's an enterprise storage device. It's like files. Here we have something called File Center. You guys heard of File Center? It's just it's just a big storage device that's on the network, and it's
Big
called a
rack.
SAN.
With network interface.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Yeah, that's essentially what a SAN is. Are there any more slides? Or is that one it?
That's it. You're done.
That's it?
There's 2 more.
Are they useless or useful?
Pretty much.
Okay. Well, let's let me jump on here then, and we'll do some. I'll open a packet tracer and we'll do a little bit of it's called.
Network.
Yeah. All right.
Is there a way we can be doing it with you or no?
No, just well, I'm gonna be asking you guys questions.
Alright.
So we're basically gonna go over what we just went over, but in packet tracer. Where's my Windows?
Hey guys, before we leave, let's set a plan for if we need to install VirtualBox on our home computers, how we're gonna distribute that and get that going.
And then also we should plan on if we're gonna do the practice round on Friday.
Okay, we can talk about it, yeah.
Well, everyone should be able to go home on VirtualBox, get a thumb drive from somewhere, download Ubuntu ISO, and then just load it.
But we'll talk about that later. Just make sure we're on the same page, so we know what we're doing.
Cool. Yeah, just drop that resolution all the way down.
How's that?
Nick, what do I open?
All right.
Terminal.
So we're gonna go over.
No, just turn that.
Now that you guys know a little bit about networking, you guys saw all the device icons. So like what a switch looks like, what a network or what a router looks like. You guys remember those?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll go over that.
Little icons.
Okay, so I'm gonna teach you guys how to use packet tracer. Let me make this bigger. Okay, let's start there. Packet tracer. I showed you guys briefly just what it looked like a couple weeks ago. So packet tracer is where we will be doing all of our networking side of the competition for our local competitions. So they're going to give you a network that's already built. So this is basically it's a machine that has virtual components, virtual hardware, and you can simulate an entire network. So you can have end devices, you can have, so your clients, you can have all your clients, you can have all your servers, you can have anything you want on this.
Imagine it's a video game simulation, guys, for building and maintaining networks.
There you go.
Beautiful.
And so it's basically just you don't have to have the actual devices. When you guys are within this, you're not gonna have to build a network. The network's already built. But let's go ahead and just build a small little network, just so you guys can see what it's like. Okay, so in your down left corner, can you guys see all this?
Yeah.
Okay, so in your down left corner right here, you have all your devices. You have your routers, your switches, your hubs. Let's talk about hubs real fast. I'm surprised that wasn't in the presentation. Hubs are evil. You never ever want to use a hub on your network. So basically, it's one. So there's something called a collusion domain, which is something that all your a switch has multiple ports on it. Each port has its own collusion domain. So basically, like its own bandwidth going out. On a hub, it's all like it's connected on one port, so it's all one collusion domain. So if you have a hub somewhere, is going to destroy your entire network if you have multiple things connected to it, because it's just all going to crash. Everything's going to freak out, and it's a bad idea to have hubs. Our professor is going to be teaching us. He hates hubs. Like he doesn't ever even want to see one.
Cool.
They're the devil.
We should buy him one.
Yeah.
Hey, we got your gift.
Yeah. There you go.
It's a great presentation.
So we're never gonna use hubs.
Never ever going to use hubs in CyberPatriot, and you're never ever going to use hubs in real life. They're terrible. What? Okay.
He's on Mac, but he's using
So. So you have wireless devices. Right here, this thing right here is where all your cables are. So each there are different types of cables. There's your console cable, so that's how you connect to your switches, routers, and you configure them. You have your copper straight through. So when you connect, when you're connecting from a switch to a computer or a router to a switch, you're going to use the copper straight through. But whenever you're connecting a computer to a computer or a router to a router, you're going to use the crossover cable.
So you said router to switch is copper straight through?
Yes. So whenever you're connecting two computers together, you're going to use your crossover. If you're not connecting two computers together, you're going to use your straight through. There's a specific, there's a reason for it. It's the way the pins work.
They're patched
It's
differently, so basically they can talk to each other in both directions. Think about like it's a one-way road if it's a straight cable, and so the information can't flow both directions. The crossover cable actually has the pins oriented differently so that information can be sent back and forth.
yeah. So it's the way the pins they're switched on the crossover cable. So whenever you have two computers together, you're going to use your crossover cable. A router is like a computer. It has its own CPU, has everything. So that's why when you connect two routers together, you're going to use your crossover cables. You have your fiber cable, which you'll never really use within CyberPatriot. You have your phone cable, which I've never used. You have your coaxial cables. You have your coaxial cables, which again I've never used. Like basically from here to all the way to the right, you'll never use. This guy right here is gonna be your best friend. I love him. So
Wait, what guy?
this one right here, the orange lightning bolt. So what this does is you tell it what devices you want to connect, and it chooses the cable for you.
Ooh, fancy.
So that way you don't have to like go like, oh man, I don't
Yeah,
remember which
yeah.
one.
If you don't remember what cables to use, this will do it for you. So, but they disable that during competition.
I figured.
Oh.
So they disable a lot of things during competition.
So the only cables we're really using are copper straight throughs and copper
Crossovers
crossovers.
and
Collection.
this one right here, the blue one, the what's it called? I blanked on the name. Hold on. The console cable, because that's how you configure your switches and your routers.
So what is console connect?
So console cable. I wish I would brought a switch. Basically, on the back of each switch and router is something called a console port. It's a special cable that you use to connect your computer to that port, and that's how you configure the device over the command line, not GUI.
Okay.
And I'll show you. I can show you that. So let's go ahead and pull up a switch. So we go to our switches right here, and I'm just gonna grab. There's different types. So this is like 2950.
Packet tracer only on Windows, is it only in EXE?
But it looks like it might work in.
No, he's
No,
on the
so
He's,
no, I'm using my Windows. Yeah, so Packet Tracer is only made for Windows, and they have a Linux version, but they don't have an OS X version.
okay, so if they installed a virtual box with Linux on it, they'd be able to run Packet Tracer in it?
Correct.
But it looks like he might get it to work just by putting it into Oracle. He's trying to do it.
Okay, keep going. I was just curious if it had an active.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and pull a switch. I'm just gonna grab a generic switch right here. I'm gonna put it right here. So this is a switch. Let's look at how we can configure it, and let's look at the different settings. So if I go ahead and just click on this, we see our configuration menu. We can see the physical device.
Is it really that long?
Well, it's longer.
That's the back side?
No, that's the front. So this is the front side. Let me see if I can get the back side. Pretty sure there's a way to do it. Yeah, so we can zoom in. We can see, so you have your different lights, so you have all your different ports. Zoom out. Oh, too far. Original size. I thought there was a way to flip it. No. Doesn't look like there is. Okay, so this is your physical device tab. Then you have your config tab. This is where you can configure it over the GUI. So you can do all your settings right here. You can see all your fast Ethernet, so all your ports. But forget about that tab. Because first off, they lock it in CyberPatriot, so you can't even access that tab. And I've never once even used it because I've done everything over the command line. This next tab right here is your command line. This is where you will be doing all of your work. Actually, let me pull up a fresh switch because I just clicked on some buttons. Okay. So this is what it will look like when you when it first turns on. This is the message you will get. When it first turns on, you get all these different, basically, you see all the devices stuff. So it says it's initiating the flash. So part of its switch, the memory is called the flash. That's all the storage of it. So whenever you're saving, you do write to flash. If you don't do that, you'll lose all your work. So just remember, flash is like your storage. It's like your hard drive. Then it'll say Cisco. I'll show you guys. I'm just explaining. So this is how you're gonna get it when it starts. You're gonna hit enter. And now we are in. There's different types of levels of configuration. This is the very, very bottom. You can't do much in this level we're at right now. I don't remember the name of the level. But you literally can't do anything in this level. So what you have to do is you have to go to something called the enable level, which in there you have a little bit more privilege. You can see all the, you can see the running config files. You can see everything that's configured on the switch. So you have a little bit more privilege in that level. And then you have the configure terminal level, which you basically you have access to configure the entire device. So let's go into our enable level. To do that, there's Cisco IT people, they love shortcuts. They don't like memorizing entire parts. So we can always do EN, tab, enter, or you can just type the word enable. A lot of times you can also just type EN and it'll just do it. So now we're in the enable configuration, or the enable level of the device. If you don't know what to do, or if you get stuck, Cisco loves, again, they love their shortcuts. So you have your tab, which will complete your command, whatever you're telling it, and you have your question mark. So if you forget the command, or if you don't know the command, you can always type the question mark and it'll tell you what to do. So right now if I hit question mark, it just brought up all kinds of different things that I can do with the level of access that I have right now. So you can see that I can reset it, I can clear, I can manage the clock, I can delete stuff, I can delete a file, I can erase the file system. I mean, I can do a lot of things, but I can't configure it. I can do show, so I can see all my information. I can do trace routes. What was that? Yeah. So there's a lot of things you can do, and trust me, that is your best friend. Question mark and tab are your best friends. I'll give you a great example. When you take the test, they won't allow you to have any sort of training material with you.
But they'll let you have a question mark.
Yes.
And tab.
And tab. But no notes, no nothing.
Yeah,
That's when you take the test for the certifications, as we just went over. During CyberPatriot, you'll have everything. So, let's start off with, let's see what's configured on the switch, right? I mean, we just turned it on. Let's see what's configured. So if we type show, running. So I'm used to the shortcuts. Sorry, running. Question mark. Thank you. Show running configuration. This is, so if I hit enter, I will be able to see everything that's been programmed on the switch. Cool. So if we go to the top, we can see it'll tell us everything about the device. It'll show the version of iOS we're running. It will show that we're not using password encryption. It'll tell us the name of the device. It'll tell us the spanning tree protocol is not running, and then it'll start and going off to all the ports. So you can see there's nothing configured for any of these ports.
So we only have, how many ports do we have?
This one's 24. There's different types of switches that have different number of ports. We can see that that VLAN 1 is the only one that's enabled by default, but it has no IP address to it, so you can't really configure it over remote access. LineCon 0. It has no password, so basically it's a very unsecure switch. Yeah, so nothing is basically configured on it, and it's because we just turned it on. So let's change that. Let's let's do a couple commands. Let's change the name of the device. Let's add password encryption. And we'll do a couple other things. So I like to just hit enter multiple times. To be able to configure it, we're gonna have to go into our configuration terminal. So we're gonna type config. I type config tab, and then terminal. So T terminal. It's the name of the next level. We're gonna hit enter. I now have full access to to basically configure the switch. Now, we can password protect enable. We can password protect the configuration terminal, and we can even add users. So we can have different users to access different levels. I believe there are 15 different levels within Cisco that people can have access to. So let's change the name of the device. That's always the first thing you're gonna do, because it's always on the rules, and it's pretty easy. So to do that, it's pretty straightforward. We can type host name and then the name of device. So this is switch, and this is switch number 1. So let's call it SW1. Pretty simple. You're gonna hit enter, and notice how the name changed right here. And notice how yesterday when you guys went over terminal, you didn't get any feedback, right, if the command was right. This is exactly like that. If the command is correct, it's just going to take it. It's not going to tell you, hey, the command was correct, congratulations, whatever.
Great job.
It's just going to take the command.
No.
Now, if you get the command incorrect, so if I type, host face, I guess, in the name, you can see it's going to say invalid. I don't know what you're talking about. That is an invalid command.
Get your crap together.
So always remember, use your tab, use your question mark, whatever. So cool. We have now changed the name of the device.
Yes.
Step 1. Actually, let's take a look at our checklist and see what else it recommends we do as the first steps. So let me pull that up. Let me just zoom this in so you guys can see. View. Cool. So you see, we went to, there you go. It's called executive to privileged executive mode. So that's what the proper terminology is. Sorry. So when you first turn on your user executive mode, then you go to privileged executive mode, which allows you to see everything and do all your show commands, your run commands. And then you got your configuration, which is from privileged executive mode to global configuration mode. And again, config T works just fine. So you'll find that in the checklist, stuff in bold are your commands. So it says change the host name. Cool, we already did that. Okay, now let's put a password going from user executive mode, so I'm going from enable to privileged executive mode. To do that, we're going to type enable secret. And I don't know if you guys remember when we went over this, but the reason we put secret is secret. What that does is it encrypts the password. If we just type enable password, it will show it as clear plain text. So whenever you're connecting to your switch or your router over Telnet, for example, and if someone on the other end is using Wireshark, when you type that password in, it is no longer encrypted and is going to go in clear plain text, and whoever's using that Wireshark on the other end is going to be able to see your password, which is a huge security hole, because then they can configure everything, which is what we're here to prevent from happening, right? Yep. Cool, so let's do that real fast. Actually, Paul, come over here.
Go, Paul. MVP.
So you're gonna type enable.
Do what?
You're gonna type enable. E-N. Tab. Yeah, you can use tab. Nope. Enable. Enable. Nope, you weren't supposed to hit enter yet. I'll tell you when to hit enter. Enable, space, secret, space, and then our password. Capital P, Patriots, or you can do top 21, doesn't matter. Now, during competition, they will give you the password to use on all the Cisco stuff because they need to get in to see what you configured. So they will give you the password for that.
So do.
You can do whatever password for here.
And if you don't give them the password, you fail.
Okay.
Cool.
Enter.
Now hit enter. So as you see, it just took the command, and now we have a password that is encrypted to get into your privileged exec mode. So now this is what I want you to do. I want you to type exit, enter, hit W. Okay, stop. So what this is saying, hey, you're exiting. Do you want to save what you just configured to the memory, to the flash? And typically all you have to do, well, there's different ways to do it. You can do the super long way, which is copy, running configuration, copy, running config, yeah. Copy, running configuration, and it'll take that. You can type write, and it'll take that. Or, if you just want to be lazy, you can type W, and it will take that. So hit enter. And now you just saved what you configured.
Wow.
So now we're in the privilege exec mode. So I want you to type show, space, running, yep, enter. Cool. I want you to scroll up to the top of this command. Stop, nope, no, keep going. Go down, down, down. Right there, perfect. Okay, so you can see we gave it a host name, SW1, and you can see that he gave it an enable, he gave enable, so the privilege exec mode, a secret password, and it is encrypted. And again, I don't remember the encryption. I think it's MD5, something like that. But it is now encrypted.
Is that like a secret language?
Well, it's an encryption language. So it's different. There's like SHA-7. There's different types of encryptions out there.
Like in computers, something like some millions of years to decode it or something?
It depends. There's different ways to decode it. We'll go over that later. You guys will have to know. You guys will have to know how to decrypt encryptions for some portions of the competition. But we're not going to go over that now. So basically, you can see what we did worked. Not only did it take the commands, but you can see it's there. Cool. Now I want you to type enter. That will take us to the very bottom. Type space, hit spacebar, spacebar, spacebar. Cool. So basically what that does is it just went through the whole running configuration and it showed you everything that was configured, just like we went over a little bit earlier today. Cool, and now we're back at privilege exec mode. We just saved our work. Let's go back into configuration terminal. There's a lot of things that we haven't configured, like tons. So type config T, terminal, enter. Cool. So now we're in the configuration terminal. Go ahead and swipe.
Control Z is kind of funny.
Hmm?
End with Control Z.
Okay, go ahead and swipe over using the mouse. No. Let's see what's next. Scroll down. Up.
It's a beautiful list.
Right there. So now we got to put a password on the console port. So remember how I told you guys each switch and router has a console port in the back of it? That is how you configure the device. But we need to put a password to that, right? Because what's stopping me, perfect example, the event center. There's a rack upstairs that has a bunch of switches and it's not locked. Anyone can just go up there. What's stopping me as an attacker, let's just say I'm an attacker or a hacker, what's stopping me from taking my computer and plugging it into one of those switches?
Morals.
I have direct access.
I thought about that.
That's why you have a password on your console port. So what that does is it keeps people out.
What if they made a new
2100G. Everyone just tried 2100G.
So we need to put a password on our console port on our virtual switch, right? So swipe back over to that. Cool. And type config T. Or no, you're already in config T. I'm sorry. Do line.
What?
Type line, LINE, CON. Nope, no space. Line, nope, keep going. Nope, stop.
We're not very good at the sound.
Oh, what'd you do?
You broke it, Paul.
Come on, Paul.
Okay. So now we are in the configuration terminal of that console port. So now I want you to type password and type the password you gave it for that one just for the sakes. Enter. Now, since you're on the device, you need to type login. So type login. Enter. Cool. So now we gave it a password, but we also logged into the device so we can still configure it. So hit exit, type exit, W. Cool, so now let's see what we just did. Type show running config, just like what we did earlier, and we're gonna see what we just did to the switch. Okay, scroll to the top. So you can see it's not up there, it's gonna be at the very bottom. So keep hitting spacebar until we're at the very bottom. Cool, scroll up. Okay, so cool, we put a password, but our password's in plain text, which is useless, right? Because,
Secret in the beginning.
well, I don't, there's a reason for that. Okay, so it's in clear text, it's in plain text form. So now anyone that not only has our enable password can just go into the show running config and see our password. But now whenever we try and console in over the network via telnet, and if someone is sitting there with Wireshark, they can see our password. Not good, right? So go ahead and fix that. So go back into the configuration terminal. No, because you're already at the privilege set. So just type config T. Do CON. Just do so CON FIG space T. Yep. You don't even have to tab. You can just hit enter. Enter. Cool. So now let's encrypt that password. So I want you to type service space password dash encryption. Enter. Cool. Now what we did is we told it any password that is in clear plain text, I want you to encrypt that. So let's go see it. Actually, I'll show you guys a shortcut. So instead of having to type exit and go to your your privilege exec mode, which is tons of work, and especially if you're deep down in the menus, you don't want to do that. There's a shortcut. If you type do, D-O, but if you do this, the tab command no longer works for just this one command. So space show running configuration. Nope, you forgot your dash.
Running or
Show space running dash config. Enter.
Why would they make that one the one that doesn't work?
Okay, stop. Oh no, keep going.
Down.
Yep.
Down.
Cool. Now you can see it is encrypted. It is no longer in clear plain text.
I completely understand it.
That's great.
That's like it told us the first one.
Now this is what I want you to do. I want you to decrypt that and tell me the password.
It'll take me a bit.
It's actually pretty easy.
Top 20.
Seriously, top?
Yeah. Check this out.
Is it in binary?
Watch out.
Oh, wait. Let the master touch.
Actually, I don't know if I want to show you guys this.
You're gonna show
Don't
us.
think.
Do it.
Don't
You're gonna
think.
sit down
Do
and
it.
show us how to do this.
Morals is not
Here,
what
I'm getting
the
it.
internet was made off of. Let's just make that very
Okay. So we're gonna use. There's different types of programs out there to decrypt stuff. I use a program called Cain Enable.
Cain and
No.
kill.
No, Cain and Abel.
So this is it right here.
So are we gonna kill our brother with stone, or are we gonna be killed?
With this.
Oh, bye.
Oh wait.
Oh, it's just called Cain.
No, it's Cain and Abel.
Well, I mean, there's only Cain in the end, so.
That is true. Sniffer.
Okay. This is a very powerful tool. You can do a lot of things with this. You can sniff the network. You can do the man-in-the-middle attack. Remember when we went over the man-in-the-middle attack? This is actually the exact software you use to use the man-in-the-middle attack. So the man-in-the-middle attack is where you're in between a client and the switch or the router, and you pretend to be the switch or the router.
Oh, this
So-
is like
Whenever you say pretend,
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
putting on some like mustache and being like, I am the router.
And so basically, you no longer have HTTP or HTTPS, which is your encryption. Now everything is going to go over in clear plain text. Everything. And you're going to get a menu, a little window pops to say, hey, HTTPS is no longer enabled. But of course, your average user is not going to know what the heck that even is. So they're just going to click OK.
Great.
So what's going to happen is this software,
Okay, I believe you.
this software is going to then, it's almost like Wireshark. It's going to capture everything that they're trying to do over the network because it goes to you before it goes to the router. So you'll get their passwords or their email, whatever they log into, you will get in clear plain text.
I cannot wait to go home and try this.
Yes, please do it. Not on this network.
Not on this network. We'll find you and kill you.
I was gonna sit at Starbucks.
Actually-
for a bit.
I'm not even going to say. So,
Get
To-
all the white
in-
noise.
Wait, actually,
Passwords.
we'll find you.
so,
What were you about to say?
What?
okay, hold on. So, if you click on crackers, this will decrypt or crack the encryption. There's many different settings you can see. As you can see right here, there's a Cisco iOS MD5 hash. So I was right. Cisco's encryption is MD5 hash. So basically, you would type the hash in there. It's been a while since I've done this.
So the hash
Um,
is.
Let's see here. I haven't done this in a while. I
Is it
think
already
it's no. So you add to list, and the hash would be
That series of numbers.
yes.
I'm playing millions. Stress your muscles.
Or do what I do and set up a.
Well, essentially, what you do is you type in the hash here, give it a couple minutes, and you'll decrypt the hash, and you'll have the password. But in order for you to even be able to do that, you have to have access to the switch to even get the hash, right?
Yep.
So,
You're kind of screwed either way.
well, not essentially. There's still many ways to get into it, but I'm not here to teach you guys that stuff.
Dang.
No, teach us.
Okay, at least we know. Cain and Abel, that's what we know.
We
Okay,
just have to get
Cain and
Cain.
Abel, you could go.
How to get rich using Cain and Abel.
Oh, that's a very dark stuff.
Rich using Cain and
hey guys, I do want you to remember, you will learn stuff like this in this class, but remember, be safe. It's against the law. And don't do it on someone else's network.
Hey, don't get
Just 'cause
caught.
we know who we're talking.
I will tell you this though. If it's on, oh, it's my boss. Give me one second.
Yeah,
Found out.
Like, did you get my
He's
passwords
watching the
again?
live stream.
You might want to take off your mic if you're gonna talk to him. Just saying.
No, he texted me. Oh, do I know where the clock went from the LCC? What?
Wait, it should still be there.
Somebody stole it. They
That
were
was a
running.
cool clock.
They were short.
What
on
clock? I don't
time.
even know what he's talking about.
The
What
LCD
clock?
red clock that's up in the LCC.
Oh, I know where it went.
Oh, so you stole it.
No, someone else stole it.
Someone else stole it.
You just helped them.
Yeah, they carried to the vehicle.
He helped them stack 3 kids on top of each other so they could take it.
It's probably Austin Wolf.
I hate that kid.
Okay.
I
don't even-
hack his phone.
That would be
I'm down.
Okay, guys, let's get back on track. So, you guys will learn a lot of stuff like this in this course. Yeah, don't do that. If you want to do it on your own, great. I'll be perfectly honest. I have done it at home. But I mean, it doesn't really work because my dad is a security engineer, so I can't really do anything at home.
You get like 2 out of 10, like, dang.
Yeah, I actually did.
Son, get off the internet.
So, yeah, but I mean, if you guys want to try this stuff out at home, I mean, I'm cool with it. I don't know if Mr. Sniff is. I don't know what his rules are.
Sniff, you okay with it?
We're smart enough.
Number one rule is don't get caught.
We're smart enough to where if we try hard enough and don't do anything super stupid, we probably won't get caught.
Rule number 2 is always plead the 5th.
There you go.
That's
And,
a great idea.
Um,
And if you get a subpoena for the Supreme Court, just bleach all your hard drives.
so, there's many different things you can do with the hard drive. So, actually, let's talk about that real fast. So, a hard drive, when you write to it, it's basically in a bunch of ones and zeros. And the more you write to it, the more it's just going to copy and copy. That's why flash drives die eventually, because once you copy to it so many times, it just dies after that. So, I mean, if you keep copying files and deleting files off it, it's eventually where you've done it enough times, you can make the hard drive completely useless.
So you just use like a program and just
There
spam
are-
it with like.
There are programs that just like jump ones and zeros just thousands of
Yeah.
times over the entire
And basically, you're just rewriting over and over and over to the hard drive
would work?
to where it's just useless at that
You
point.
know what else would work? A hammer.
Hey, well, I believe Hillary Clinton didn't try that, so it didn't work for her.
Hillary
Yeah,
Clinton
yeah, I
dumped them all in
think, they
acetone.
can rebuild it, they can still get it.
What if you break the discs in half?
No, they will still figure it out.
still get it.
Yeah, you can
There's ways to
still.
get around it.
So
If you
again,
still
guys,
want it,
Can you put it in water?
just point is don't try anything stupid.
Don't
Don't be stupid.
information over a private server.
Yeah, and that's a whole
Then they'll get
nother
caught, and if
stupidity.
you don't delete it like all at once.
But yeah, let me drive for a couple minutes.
Thank
Thank you.
whip out the keyboard.
Hey, Alfonso, what
So-
if- how long would it take for us all to do the Ubuntu right now to VirtualBox so we can do this? Because
Yeah.
this exists on for Ubuntu.
Yes, that is
Should we
true.
do it right now?
I mean, we can totally do that.
Let's do it.
Let me turn off my mic. Hold on. We'll be back in a couple minutes. Streamers, livers, whatever you want to call yourselves.
There's probably like